The world has always worshipped outward beauty, but sometimes that very beauty becomes the most expensive prison of all. Marilyn Monroe had everything: dazzling fame that lit up entire continents, millions of adoring fans who screamed her name, luxurious studio contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the image of an immortal sex symbol that still captivates hearts decades after her death. Yet behind that radiant, unforgettable smile was a lonely and shattered soul, haunted by demons that no amount of spotlight could chase away. This is the story of Hollywood's golden girl, the woman who conquered the entire world but could not save herself from the darkness within. From 1953 to 1959, Marilyn Monroe stood at the absolute summit of Hollywood, the undisputed queen who ruled the silver screen like no one before or since. She was the blonde bombshell, the highest paid actress of her era, commanding salaries that dwarfed even the biggest male stars of the time. With Gentlemen Prefer Blondes in 1953, Marilyn didn't just seduce the camera, she exploded onto the screen in that shimmering pink dress, singing "Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend," with a voice that mixed innocence and seduction in a way that made audiences fall hopelessly in love. The film raked in hundreds of millions of dollars for 20th Century Fox and turned Marilyn into an overnight global phenomenon. Then came Some Like It Hot in 1959, a comedy masterpiece directed by Billy Wilder. Playing the role of Sugar Cane, Marilyn delivered one of the most iconic performances in cinematic history, proving beyond doubt that she possessed not only breathtaking beauty, but a natural, sparkling gift for comedy that critics could no longer ignore. She graced the cover of Life magazine multiple times, became the very first centerfold model for Playboy in 1953, and transformed into a living symbol of glamour, freedom, and the American dream itself. Her marriages only amplified the legend. In 1954, she wed baseball icon Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper, in a union that made front-page news around the world. 2 years later, in 1956, she married the great playwright Arthur Miller, creating a union between Hollywood glamour and literary brilliance that seemed almost too perfect to be real. Marilyn wasn't just a movie star anymore. She was a cultural force, a walking fantasy that millions of men dreamed about and millions of women longed to emulate. She received thousands of fan letters every week, appeared at sold-out premieres, and walked red carpets under blinding flashbulbs that never seemed to stop. But even at the very height of this glittering success, few people understood the truth. Behind the blinding flashbulbs, behind the laughter and the kisses blown to the crowd, was a woman quietly battling the ghosts of a painful past that refused to let her go. Her real name was Norma Jean Mortensen, born on the 1st of June, 1926, in a charity ward of the Los Angeles General Hospital. From the very first breath she took, her life was marked by abandonment and instability. Her mother, Gladys Baker, suffered from severe paranoid schizophrenia and was barely able to care for herself, let alone a newborn. Just 2 weeks after giving birth, Gladys had no choice but to hand Norma Jean over to foster care. For the next 16 years, the little girl would drift through more than 11 different foster homes and orphanages, never knowing the warmth of a permanent family. She never met her biological father. His identity remained a painful mystery her entire life. Gladys herself was repeatedly institutionalized in mental hospitals, and the few visits Norma Jean was allowed were she would sit across from a mother who sometimes didn't even recognize her own daughter, leaving the child with a crushing sense of rejection that would echo through every relationship she ever had. In those foster homes, Norma Jean endured not only emotional neglect, but also sexual abuse at the hands of people who were supposed to protect her. She later wrote in her private journal, later published as fragments, "No one ever told me I was. All little girls should be told they are pretty, even if they aren't." That single sentence reveals the depth of her wound, a child starved for love, for validation, for the simple assurance that she mattered. The orphanages were cold, institutional places where rules replaced affection and loneliness became her constant companion. She developed a stammer from the trauma, a fear of abandonment so profound that it would sabotage every close relationship she tried to build. This origin wound, the terror of being unwanted, the emotional instability passed down from her mother's illness, became the invisible force that shaped her destiny. No matter how many millions adored her later, Norma Jean inside Marilyn could never fully believe she deserved the love she received. That childhood scar would follow her like a shadow, growing darker even as her fame grew brighter. At the age of 16, desperate to escape the orphanage system, Norma Jean married her neighbor Jim Doherty, a young aircraft factory worker. It was less a love match and more a practical solution to avoid being sent back into state care. When World War II broke out, she took a job at the radio plane factory, spraying fuselages and packing parachutes. One day in 1944, a military photographer named David Conover arrived to shoot propaganda pictures of women contributing to the war effort. He snapped a photo of the smiling, curvaceous Norma Jean, and that single image changed everything. The picture spread quickly, and within months she was modeling for magazines. In 1946, she divorced Doherty, bleached her hair blonde, and chose the stage name Marilyn Monroe, a name that combined her grandmother's surname with a glamorous first name inspired by Broadway. She signed a 6-month contract with 20th Century Fox, marking the beginning of her professional journey. The studio initially dropped her, claiming she lacked talent, but Marilyn refused to accept defeat. She took acting classes, worked tirelessly on her craft, and in 1949 posed nude for photographer Tom Kelly to pay her rent. Those now legendary photographs would later become the first ever Playboy centerfold. By 1953, Gentlemen Prefer Blondes catapulted her to stardom. She learned to weaponize the dumb blonde persona, hiding her deep insecurity behind giggles and breathy delivery while secretly studying Stanislavski and demanding better roles. That was her masterstroke. In 1955, she made the bold decision to leave Hollywood temporarily and move to New York, where she founded her own production company, Marilyn Monroe Productions, an unprecedented move for a female star at the time. She studied under legendary acting coach Lee Strasberg at the Actors Studio, earning praise from peers who saw the serious artist beneath the glamour. Then came Some Like It Hot in 1959. Despite health struggles and personal turmoil, Marilyn delivered a performance that critics hailed as brilliant. From an abandoned orphan who once slept in orphanage dormitories, Marilyn had climbed to the very peak of fame through sheer willpower, relentless ambition, and raw talent. She had rewritten her own story, or so it seemed. But the price she paid for that ascent was devastating and relentless. The studio relentlessly typecast her as the dumb blonde, refusing to give her the serious, dramatic roles she craved, even though she had proven her range time and again. She became pregnant twice during her marriage to Arthur Miller, but both pregnancies ended in heartbreaking miscarriages, losses she described in private letters as almost unbearable. To cope with chronic insomnia, crippling anxiety, and deepening depression, Marilyn turned to alcohol and barbiturates, medications that were freely prescribed by studio doctors but slowly eroded her health. The studio controlled every aspect of her public image, her weight, her hair color, even the exact wording of her lines on set. Both of her high-profile marriages collapsed under the weight of jealousy and misunderstanding. Joe DiMaggio, the baseball hero, grew violently possessive and physically abusive during their brief union. Arthur Miller, the intellectual giant, treated her more like a fragile patient needing repair than an equal partner. In 1955, exhausted by the Hollywood machine, Marilyn fled to New York. She wrote in her diary, "I feel like I'm a toy. Everyone wants me, but no one really wants to know who I am." That raw confession captures the heartbreaking turning point. Fame had delivered money, adoration, and power, but it had also stolen her privacy, her peace of mind, and her ability to trust anyone. The very image that made her a goddess had become a cage, trapping the vulnerable Norma Jean who still yearned for genuine love and acceptance. By 1961 and 1962, the downward spiral accelerated into a full collapse. She divorced Arthur Miller after yet another devastating miscarriage. Rumors swirled about secret relationships with both President John F. Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, affairs that, whether fully true or exaggerated by the press, only added to her isolation and paranoia. In May 1962, she delivered the legendary performance of Happy Birthday, Mr. President, at Madison Square Garden, wearing a skin-tight, jewel-encrusted dress that left the audience breathless. It was a career pinnacle, yet it also proved to be the final straw. 20th Century Fox fired her from the film Something's Got to Give because her chronic absences caused by illness and depression had become too costly. She found herself completely isolated. Former friends and colleagues distanced themselves, afraid to be associated with a star whose reputation was now seen as unreliable. Late-night phone calls to trusted friends revealed a woman unraveling, crying about the fear of abandonment that had haunted her since childhood. Her career was in ruins, her love life lay in pieces, and the old wounds had reopened wider than ever. In her final days, Marilyn lived alone in a modest Brentwood bungalow, surrounded by the trappings of fame but starved for real connection. She made desperate middle-of-the-night calls to friends, confessing her terror of being forgotten and her belief that no one truly loved her for who she was. On the night of the 4th of August 1962, at the age of only 36, Marilyn Monroe died from an overdose of barbiturates. The official ruling was probable suicide, yet the circumstances have fueled decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. Many pages of the FBI files on her remain heavily redacted to this day, hinting at connections to powerful figures and unresolved questions. She left behind an estate valued at $2,700,000, the equivalent of more than $25 million in today's money, which she bequeathed primarily to her acting coach, Lee Strasberg. Her image continues to generate millions annually through licensing and merchandise. But far more important than the financial legacy is the cultural one. Marilyn became the eternal symbol of a woman devoured by the Hollywood machine. Her story stands as a powerful reminder that fame cannot heal a broken heart, that outward beauty can sometimes mask the deepest inner pain, and that even the brightest stars can burn out when the darkness inside grows too strong. If this story touched you, hit like and subscribe right now so you don't miss the next Hollywood downfall. Thank you for walking with Marilyn. See you in the next video.